All right. Good morning, everybody. Thanks for joining us for the 10:30 call with Jake Pinegar. As always, if you have a question, please use the raise your hand function and we will come over, unmute you, and get you talking to Jake. So if anyone wants to kick us off, let me know. We'll start with Ben Foray then.
Hi, Jake. Thanks for your time today. Appreciate you doing this. Just kind of get started. I mean, after these last couple of games, and a couple players have talked about tough conversations that have needed to be had, like in the locker room, throughout the team. Just like, what do these kind of tough conversations look like to hold each other accountable? And, what do you kind of learn from them and take from them moving forward?
Yeah, I think the majority of the conversations are just, people, telling each other to look in the mirror, take a step back and look at what they can improve on and do better on. And I know personally I did the same thing. I know everybody on this team has coaches, players, everybody, they're just kind of taking a step back, evaluating everything, looking to see what they can improve and do better for themselves and for the team. So those have kind of been the conversations that people have been having. Just kind of take a look in the mirror and evaluate things and, see what you can improve moving forward.
Gianna Galli.
Yes. Hi, Jake. I'm curious as to what your social media presence has been like during the season or maybe throughout seasons in the past and how maybe that's sort of changed this season. Is it something where you guys are encouraged to stay engaged with social media, or is it more of a tough place right now to be in, to drown out negativity and stay positive and, you're trying to be alert to like society around you, but not wanting to keep, a bad environment sort of in your presence as well?
Yeah. Social media during the season is never really a good thing just because when you're doing good, people are going to be there to say something and pat you on your back. And then when you're doing bad, those same people are going to be there to say something and kind of stab you in your back. So social media really during the season is never, something that people really are huge on or people are encouraged to use and things like that, just because of all the two-sided, things that go on. And especially right now, it's just not a good idea. People need to focus on other things rather than what other people are saying and outside noises and influences. So during the season, no matter what season it is, yeah, it's just never really a big thing. Obviously it's there. And obviously it can be good or bad, but bad or good, it's just not encouraged to, be on or tune into that much.
Matthew Rudisil.
Morning, Jake. Thanks for doing this this morning. What's your relationship like with Jordan Stout, and how do you guys prepare week to week coming off these first 4 games?
Yeah, I got a good relationship with Jordan. He's one of my best friends here. We hang out a lot more, do a lot more stuff than just being around each other at Lash and doing football activities for sure. But yeah, conversations are just, things that we can do for the team. Obviously our roles are limited compared to, like offensive players or defensive players. We get limited reps and things like that, but it's still the same mentality and conversations and just kind of having things where, you're kind of talking about things you can do better, things you can improve on, ways that we can, maximize our potential whenever we're out there, and things like that. So that's pretty much what we've been talking about in the locker room and things like that. But yeah, he's a good friend of mine.
Tobias Wilborn.
Jake, thanks for doing this as always, man.
For sure.
And yeah, so from there, man, coach was telling us yesterday about the process for the COVID testing for you guys, like how long you have to wait and about the false positives, man. What is that process like mentally from your perspective, just kind of watching it through? And even if you have a teammate have a false positive, what's that process like dealing with everything?
Yeah, obviously it can be scary just because how much everyone really wants to play and how much this game means to everybody. So it can be a little bit of a scary thing, but you can't really, as long as everybody, is following, precautions and doing the things necessary to stay safe. Like I know everybody is. It's just one of those things that you can't control too, like if it's a false positive, I mean, you have no control over that. It can happen to anybody. But it's a scary thing, but the people that have had them, they've just dealt with them very well. Listen to the medical staff and the doctors and things like that. And, done the steps, the right way to get it back on track. So obviously it can be a scary process, but it's just about having faith and trust in the people that are helping us out, like the medical staff and things.
Ben Ferry.
Jake, just with the Journey Brown news came out last week. Just what does kind of Journey mean to this team, and what kind of role has he still continued to have throughout all this?
Yeah, Journey is one of the biggest kids on this team, most liked kids on this team. He's just kind of everybody loves Journey. Everybody wants to be around Journey. No one's had a negative interaction with Journey. I've never had a negative interaction with Journey. He's one of the most positive kids that I've been around. One of the most selfless players I've been around. And he just brings a lot of life to the team. And, it's one of those just unfortunate things that you don't wish to see upon anybody, but, Journey's dealing with it, and, we're all here for him. And, Journey, he's taking it really well. He's still out at practice. He's still being around the team, helping the team. And he's going to continue to do great things moving forward, but he's still the life of the team. He's still always happy, always has a smile on his face, and he's always wanted to help others. So it's just great to have him around still.
Peter Terpstra.
Hey Jake, I don't know if I've asked you this before. Do you have any friends that play for Iowa? And did you grow up as like an Iowa fan or an Iowa State fan, or I guess whatever college team maybe you cheered for?
Yeah. I got one of the starting cornerbacks. He was my teammate in high school, same age as me. So me and him are really good buddies. Played against a handful of those kids on that team. So yeah, I got a couple friends there. But I never really grew up in Iowa, a big Iowa fan. I was more of an Iowa State fan. But I had been to Iowa games growing up a few times. Everywhere in Iowa, it's usually just the Hawkeyes more than Iowa State. But I grew up an Iowa State fan. But yeah, got a lot of people that I know go there and things like that, and a lot of teammates that are friends that are players for Iowa. So it'll be a fun week.
David Eckert.
Yeah, hi Jake. Thanks for your time. I'm wondering that, now that you've had a few games, if you can kind of share your impressions of kicking in the empty stadiums. Has that kind of been like you expected? Has anything jumped out at you about it that maybe you didn't expect?
Yeah, nothing really. I mean, I kind of expected it to be the way that it is, just very, very different. It's just really quiet. A little bizarre because usually you go out there and you're so locked in with everything that's going on that you can't really hear anything anyways, but you can still tell there's a difference and things like that. But everything that's been that I've seen and that's been happening so far this season, I kind of saw that was the way it was going to play out.
Ben Free.
Jake, just from your perspective, I know James Franklin didn't name a starter yet, but what does kind of Will Levis kind of add to the Penn State offense?
Yeah, Will's a good quarterback. He's just really big, strong, physical, got a really strong arm. Great teammate, great player, things like that. But he and Sean, they both have their own thing to the offense. They both add their own thing, just being great quarterbacks, being great leaders for this team. So I mean, each one has their own, strengths and weaknesses, but both are just really good quarterbacks, and they bring their own juice and their own perspective to the team.
Any other questions for Jake this morning? Sounds good. Cool. Oh, Matt, we'll get to you. Matt Rusil.
Yeah, I got one more for you. Just kind of like a fun question here. What is or who is somebody that you look up to, like watching film, maybe in the pros? Because I know Blake Gillikin, we talked about with Jordan the other week, that he's punting behind Thomas Morstead with the Saints, and Thomas Morstead's one of the best. Obviously a punter though, but who's a kicker that you kind of look to and watch film of in the NFL?
There's a lot. There's a lot. Someone that I like, think that's really good and look up to. Maybe like Justin Tucker or Harrison Butker, just because of how good those guys are and the things that they've done. But for me personally, honestly, it sounds a little corny, but just because I know him really well and have talked to him a lot and worked with him a lot is Sam Ficken, just because I've been able to be hands on with him and kind of learn from him. So that's another dude that I look up to. But all three of those dudes, just anybody in the NFL, just they're there for a reason. They've been doing it for a long time and they're all really good at what they do. So
cool, thanks.
Yep.
We'll get last question over here to Namias Wilborn.
You did? All right. Speaking of, you mentioned empty stadiums. Nebraska is particularly windy there. Does the stadium being empty add to that with the wind, or is it just a totally different thing?
That's a good question. I don't think fans being there or not being there affects the wind. I think that's just the stadium itself. I mean, it might. I've never really experienced, I can't really tell. But Nebraska was windy. It was pretty windy. But I don't think fans being there or not being there influenced, how much wind was, swirling around in the stadium or things like that. I think it's just the stadium itself. But yeah, that's a good question.
Perfect. Well, thank you everyone for your time this morning. Thanks, Jake, for your time as well, and hope everyone has a good rest of their day.